Alright, it has been a few days now since the Dublin Half Marathon 2025. A successful race for myself, a little bit of a surprising race, particularly if you watched my video last week, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I'm still here, I live to tell the tale, so let's go through how the race went. Now, I don't want to beat around the bush too much before I get into how the race itself actually went, but before I do just want to talk about the kind of context around this race and what my plan was leading into it. If you watched my last video, you would have seen that I was diagnosed last week with a little bit of a kind of an issue around my Achilles sort of ankle-y area, yeah? And so with this race, my plan with it originally was to just go out, run it at about a maybe kind of like 9 out of 10 effort, maybe kind of 9.5 depending on how I felt on the day, and just see and test where my fitness was currently at, yeah? I had recently in Melbourne in July run a half marathon, so I had a pretty good idea of where I should be relative to that, and that was my original plan before I had my little injury debacle last week. However, since then things have gone very well, okay? It's definitely healed up pretty nicely. The inflammation went down, I took a little bit of rest, and throughout the week from Monday onwards I ran like a really normal week. All of my miles were the exact same. I took it a little bit easier on Wednesday, which is normally my workout day, so I definitely wasn't coming into this race tapered, I definitely wasn't coming into it fresh, but that was my plan as I came in, okay? Was just to run it as a bit of a sort of a training run at about a kind of 9.5-ish effort to give me an idea of where my fitness is currently at after several weeks of training now as I lead up to Valencia Marathon. So in terms of the race itself, okay, I'll put up the splits here on the screen and some of the data. I'm going to open it up here on my phone. There's pretty much no two ways about it. This was definitely a pretty solid race from me overall, okay? There wasn't any pacers for anything faster than an hour and a half. And so what I did was I just kind of jumped in ahead of that hour and a half group. There was a decent-ish size sort of group of us there. So we all started out together, which was kind of funny because you're in that group. You're like, are some of you trying to run 129? Are some of you trying to run 125, 115, 110? I didn't know, okay? But anyway, it was fine. It wasn't the end of the world. I just took off and ran my own race. For the first kind of 5k, I think in my head I split this race up into different sort of 5k segments. I said to myself, like, okay, I'll get through the first 5k, try and get through that at my pace that I ran my previous half marathon at, okay? So that was at about a 4:08 pace, and I did that. I started off, first K was 4:07, 4:12, 4:03, 4:03, and then 4:09. So listen, a little bit faster kind of than expected, but overall I was feeling good and I knew that it was on par for the sort of effort that I felt was needed for that day. In terms of the course itself in these sections, it started off with a very, very slight downhill into a slight uphill and then a good bit of net downhill. And that's why when it came to those kind of 4:03 pace kilometers, I wasn't too sort of fussed. As we got into the next section, then I definitely steadied out a bit. So it came from the 4:09 at kilometer 5 into 4:07, 4:10, 4:04 and 4:08, okay? And then another one at 4:08. So pretty much bang on where I wanted to be in terms of just keeping really steady, not letting the kind of ego get in the way or how I felt. Speaking of how I felt though, I did feel pretty fresh, okay? I took on my first gel at kind of like 4 or 5k thereabouts. Been using these Perform Nutrition ones. It's an Irish brand, about 30 grams of carbs per gel, and it sat really nicely and things felt really good, but overall felt really good up to that kind of halfway-ish mark of 10k, right? I knew in advance that the back 10k of this race was where it got a little bit kind of funny in terms of the route, so you'll definitely start to see some variation here because we do go through some hills, and my plan here was to let the hills kind of take me on a little bit, so I had no problem sort of speeding up a little bit on those. And my plan realistically when I hit the hills was to try and stay as tight to that 4:08 as I possibly could, okay? In my mind, the rationale behind this was because I had ran the previous one in Melbourne at that 4:08 pace, so I kind of said to myself in my head I should be able to average this 4:08. This is the logic I used anyway, so I should be able to land the 4:08 thereabouts, and then if I can negative split the downhills, well then I'm going to be in a pretty good place for like a PR or PB, right? And so yeah, here's how things went from there. We had the 411, 411, 402, 406, and then 422. This is actually my first time looking at this data. I did not know that kilometer 15 was a 422. I think that maybe would have put me off if I was actually looking at my watch. I didn't really look at my watch throughout the race a whole lot. I would check it every so often to see my pace of the lap, but not really as the case clicked on. That brings us then to the back half of the race. Okay, yeah, this was funny because this was where I definitely grew in confidence with the race. Once it came to kind of 15, 16, my girlfriend Megan was there, shout out to her, with some Lucozade, and I was feeling pretty good as I passed her, definitely cruising. There's a nice little clip here of me running past. I'm not in any way bad at that stage. We had just come through kind of a nasty section there of the course. It's really open, it's really wide, it was a little bit windy, and we had come up a bit of a hill prior to that, so I think that's that kind of 15th kilometer. Although there was a stage, a really nice stage in that kind of 16-ish range. If you know it, it's in the Phoenix Park. You have just this big open road and a view of the mountains just kind of hidden away slightly in the background. I think it's the mountains. And I just turned around to this random fella beside me and was like, this is the most beautiful thing ever. Yeah, moments like that for me are why running is pretty fun, especially the racing. Every so often you just get hit with those waves where you're like, yeah, this is pretty cool, and definitely a privilege to be able to do. So that was fun as well. For the back half of the race, then we just had the final 5 kilometers, 6.1 whatever kilometers, and yeah, we hit a really nice negative split here because, like I said, I was feeling good. There was a guy beside me on the off chance he's watching this or stumbles across it, where he turned around to me and said, "Oh, are we with this to the end, bro?" or something like that. And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then I just ended up taking off on him. I just felt good. So yeah, we hit a 406, 404, 349. Wow, I didn't know that. And then a 353 and a 338 to come in at 1 hour 27 minutes and 5 seconds, I think it was. It's coming up as 1 second here on Garmin, but it was 5 seconds. That was the race. That was a really good day out. That's about a minute-ish PB from that run in Melbourne. So to sum up the race, overall recovery was fine. I felt absolutely fine afterwards, and I think overall this is a pretty good indicator of where my fitness is currently at. This, in my opinion, puts me there or thereabouts for the sub 3 hour that I'm chasing in Valencia. So definitely stay tuned to see how we go with that. As it's a few days later now, I can also confirm, unfortunately, that my Achilles or my kind of ankle heel area has flared up a bit. So we're going to just have to keep dealing with that as time goes on. I'll be flat out on the isometrics and the rehab with that. But I've gotten in some K's since then. I got out the day after the race and felt okay. So I don't think, touch wood, I don't think that it's the end of the world, but it's something that we're going to have to deal with now in the lead up. But that is it. Pretty well organised race, a good day out, good support out there always is in Dublin, and like I said, an absolutely beautiful day. So yeah, this is the sub 3 hour diaries, another week in the bag. Thank you very, very much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. Having loads of fun making these videos. Listen, if you're enjoying this and you enjoyed this recap and you want to see more of this, obviously just hit the subscribe button, would really appreciate it. We're in around kind of like 60 or so subscribers now, which honestly to me is mad. I know like some people have thousands and millions and whatever, but I think this is pretty cool. At the time of recording this, I think I've got about 10 or so weeks now until Valencia. So yeah, you take away the 2 weeks of taper, it's 8 weeks, so it's really not a long time. Apologies as well, you may or may not have noticed I have like a flip up screen right at the top here that I keep looking at, but I know I'm supposed to look in the lens, so apologies, right? I'm still new to this. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment as well if you enjoyed the video, and otherwise have a great day.